on 95.3 FM in Windhoek, Desert Radio. The Bold Voice.
Please do not forget, we are streaming live on our Facebook platform at the Namibian, where there is a question of the day for you. The question is, how will the late Mikhail Gorbachev, the last Soviet Union leader, be remembered? Please do go onto our Facebook platform at the Namibian and just answer that question there for us. Now, it is that time that we do get into another conversation for the day on Breakfast in the Desert. We'll now be speaking to Alexander Boytsov and Jan Fajgl on the drilling and exploration for uranium at Farm Tripoli, close to Leonardville in the Omaheke region by Headsprings Investments that owns Uranium One. Now, the lifespan of the project is meant to be 25 years from now. However, Uranium One has had exclusive prospecting license, that's the EPL, for 10 years. There has been a lot of controversy around the project, with the community claiming that there has not been adequate consultations done prior to the drilling taking place. Now, Leonardville farmers have also been worried that the mining for uranium may pollute the underground water resources that covers the Sempriot Artesian Basin aquifer. Now, this is the largest artesian basin in the country, covering 60,000 square kilometers in southeast Namibia. It also expands into Botswana and South Africa. Now, meanwhile, Uranium One has maintained it uses the in situ leaching, that's the ISL method, to extract uranium, and this is also known as recovery or solution mining. In November of last year, the Ministry of Agriculture, Water and Land Reform cancelled 2 prospecting permits issued to the company, citing gross violations and non-compliance of permit conditions. Now, we will be joined by Alex and Jan in the studio just to speak to us a little bit on this. Alex will, of course, give us a breakdown of the activities of the company, the project itself, the farmers' complaints, as well as the controversy around the company. Well, we will be speaking to Jan as a mining engineer and a hydrogeologist with extensive experience in uranium mining and environmental assessment projects at oil and gas sites. Gentlemen, good morning.
Good morning, good morning.
How are you?
Very good, thank you, John.
How are you, Jan, this morning?
Good morning, I'm fine, thank you. I'm ready to talk and answer questions.
Very, very well. Alex, perhaps I'll start with you. Perhaps just give us a quick breakdown of the project that you are working on in Namibia.
Actually, the project started in 2011, but at that time it was uranium moratorium in Namibia. That's when we were waiting for moratorium to be lifted, and it was lifted in 2018, and then we started with the active drilling and exploration, discovered a new deposit, a big deposit of a new type for Namibia, which was previously not known in Namibia at all, a new uranium deposit, which we consider will be amenable for most environmentally friendly and low-cost method, so-called in situ leach uranium method. So we we are still ongoing with the drilling, with exploration, but the next key milestone for this project is to have the tests, on-site pilot tests for in situ leach mining, which we applied for the ministry to have this permission, and we're ready to start with this pilot test, very local pilot test, as soon as permission will be issued.
And then, Jan, from your side, perhaps just to expand on this, give us your assessment on the feasibility of a uranium mine operating where there is a groundwater aquifer. How does that work?
Well, you have to inject some chemicals, of course, into the ground to dissolve this uranium. You pump it out, and once you reach a certain degree of recovery, you have to do the groundwater restoration. And there are several means how to do it. Yes. So if the mining company follows the best practices, you clean the water to the original standards. The level of chemical composition is the original one is established by so-called baseline sampling, and to this degree, the company will be obliged to restore the groundwater. And it is feasible, it is doable.
Now, we do know that uranium mining involves, heap leaching, right? So will this whole process not contaminate the ecosystem around the area, primarily near the water resources?
Yes, I don't think this type of mining will be done by heap leaching. Heap leaching is done when you have a quarry of, and when you have this uranium ore crushed, and then you have some plastic sheet underneath, and you pour some chemical solution to dissolve this uranium.
Okay.
This time this will be done in situ, in the aquifer, but it's controlled hydraulically. You inject some technical solution down and you pump it out and you clean it on the surface. And the final cleanup is that you don't inject any chemicals, you just clean the water in situ until it's absolutely clean, until it does not exceed the standards or the baseline sample levels. And then you leave the site, you restore the surface so that it could be used for farming again. But it's a good practice to monitor around the former mine, the closed mine already restored for several years, just to make sure that nothing bad is happening. If you see some increase of something or some chemicals, you just do a little bit of more cleaning and that's it. Yes.
All right. Now, Alex, perhaps you can answer, the questions that everyone else has been asking, essentially, which is what are the financial benefits that this project will bring to the Namibian economy, number one, and of course also to the community around where you guys will be operating.
Good questions. Good question, because being we are representing Rosatom, a Russian leader, Russian nuclear company, which was dealing not only with uranium mining, nuclear power plants construction as well, all kind of in many countries worldwide. And being socially responsible company, we just bring to the area where we work not only our projects, but we create infrastructure, we create new jobs, and maybe some educational programs to the population. And we understand that this area, this region, needs this input. So we are ready to do with that. And you see, we'll create again about maybe 800 of new jobs, new employers, not during construction and mine operation, but after the mine closure. We'll also develop, establish a so-called remediation program, which will continue maybe for another 10 years. And all local population will be involved in these activities.
Now, there are worries and concerns, Alex, that the community of Leonardville was not sort of adequately consulted and given an opportunity to air their views and reservations of this particular project. Is that true? Is it not true? What's happening there?
The program is at the early stage, you understand. We are drilling. As soon as we understood that we have discovered a deposit which was amenable for in situ leach and will going for pilot tests, we'll start to communicate with. Because before that, we didn't know either which mining method will be applicable or not. Now we consider it's a proper one. And that's why we started for negotiation with community. We're negotiating with the farmers where the deposit situated from the very beginning.
Oh, so that has happened.
Absolutely. With the very beginning, we negotiate with them. We gave for them permissions for drilling, for everything, and we have agreements, certain agreements with them. And now we involve more of Namibian community for this process. We have public hearings. We prepared environmental impact assessment study, everything. That's the time for our active cooperation with local community, and we are ready for that. Because at that time we are not ready to discuss it. We were drilling. Now we understand. Now it's time for pilot test, and we ready to negotiate that.
So are these community hearings going to take place after the pilot test, or are you starting now already?
We started now already.
All right.
Because we need permission for the in situ leach. Of course, we are communicating most with the ministries.
Yeah.
Appropriate ministries, but with the farmers as well, and the local population is involved in these public hearings. They should understand
of course,
that it's environmental friendly, there's no impact on aquifer, everything, and restoration supposed to be done.
All right. And then, Jan, I'll move back to your side. Has there been a scientific method sort of used to mine with a mechanism that the mine is proposing without compromising water resources?
Scientific method, yes. It's the science of hydrogeology. Basically, through the proper coordination between injection site and pumping from the aquifer, you maintain the mining solution within the mining permit area, and you don't allow it to move outside. You have like a ring of monitoring wells at the edge of the mining area, and you always check the groundwater levels from which you can determine the flow. It should be flowing only in the permitted areas and in this permitted speed. And you also collect groundwater samples, and you analyze those samples. Yes, if you see some, let's say, uranium or whatever there, you have to increase the pumping and remediation of that water. Yes, it's possible. It's done very well in the U.S. I was working in some well fields there, and we never violated any mining permits conditions there. Yes.
And how would you talk to us about the importance of a solid environmental assessment in such big projects generally? How important is it to do that?
It is important. It is important for the state of Namibia, so that the environmental conditions or the natural conditions are restored to the best level we can. For example, you do some like a surface assessment. If there is topsoil there, like in the state of Wyoming, and you need to build something in this area, you just scrape off the topsoil, put it on a pile, and once the mining is over, you spread the topsoil back so that you don't damage the farmland, the quality of the farmland. Yes. The same is with the groundwater. Before you start mining, you do extensive collection of water samples in the area. You analyze them for whatever there is, for all the chemicals, all the even contaminants we can call it, because some groundwater is not usable for drinking. And then you decide what to do with it. And as a minimum, you keep it after you finish the mining at the level when you started or before you started. Yes, you restore it to that level. You don't damage the environment. Yes.
All right.
John, may I add a very important comment to Jan's? You should understand that the water aquifer around the uranium deposit is contaminated originally by some radionuclides. It's not far from the ore body. It's not remote. Maybe 5 to 10 kilometers area close to the ore body can be contaminated originally with radionuclides, for example. And that's one of the cases, one of the points of our baseline study to identify original composition of the aquifer.
Okay. All right, and just to stick with you, Alex, I think everyone's interested in why you're venturing in this particular project at this particular time when, uranium stock prices have not been, so attractive in the global market. Talk to us about that.
Good question. You see, our company is the third uranium producer, Uranium One company. All uranium is produced by in situ leach method, so-called, and we are the lowest cost producer. And these deposits which we are looking for, which we are searching in Namibia, are of this time for in situ leach mining and considered for the low cost production. That's why we're not depend too much on the market. We consider this will be a low cost production acceptable for the current prices. And another, we have stable offtake for our production. If we'll produce, we understand that we'll be always in line with the industry demand. And by the way, the market conditions are not too bad now. We had significant increase for uranium price from within the previous 2 years, from $30 to now $50 per pound. It's a good message, not only for us, for other Namibian uranium companies which are waiting for better market.
Okay.
Could I add something to it?
Sure,
Yes.
Jan.
I started one interesting project in Kazakhstan. It was a joint venture Inkai. It was a Canadian company Cameco investing there, and the local state company Kazatomprom. And the project was started when the price of uranium was very low. Yes, but the mining companies, they have to look decades ahead. And now there is a nice mine there, JV Inkai mine, producing a lot of uranium for nice money. Yes, and the economy is very good. Cameco, for example, closed one of the underground mines in Canada because it was very expensive to mine there, but they keep still this ISL mine in Kazakhstan operating.
That's the strategy of the major producers, to have something after some mines will be depleted, the mines which will replace in future. old depleted mines.
Speaking exactly about that, Alex, your plan in terms of your closure plan for the project, just in terms of environmental rehabilitation as well as promoting environmental health care, what does that look like?
Yes, actually it's now early stage. We have completed pre-feasibility study, but all these activities, it will be liquidation fund for rehabilitation, which will create. It will be a subject for the feasibility study, which will be done after successful pilot test. Feasibility study is a study which just where we have all these issues are included.
And then perhaps the both of you can come in here, but Alex, I'll start with you. I mean, we both know that, or we all know rather, that Namibia is the fourth largest producer, right, of uranium worldwide, but the country still does not have a solid value addition of the mineral, and the best we have reached so far is, well, producing yellow cake, right? So perhaps please give us just a solid plan that your company has in making sure that the adequate value addition is done, and of course, like we mentioned earlier, just job creation and all of that.
First of all, let me congratulate you, because last year Namibia was second producer.
Wow. All
yes,
right.
became second.
Fantastic.
Now it's second.
Fantastic
And
stuff.
your second part of the question about additional value. You see, Rosatom has the entire fuel cycle, from uranium production, then enrichment, fuel fabrication, up to nuclear power plants construction. And it's subject, for example, we construct nuclear power plants in Egypt, now in Bangladesh, in Turkey, in India, in China, and many other, and some other countries. And it's subject for Namibia. Is Namibia ready to just, to at least to think about nuclear power plants construction? Because as you know, it depends on, you buy electricity from South Africa. Is Namibia ready to go for this kind of cooperation? And besides that, we are also, when we come, we have, Rosatom has specific, maybe educational programs, and we maybe will create new jobs, not only for the mine, but from auxiliary, some facilities which will supply mine with, for example, plastic pipes, some reagents, and that's all the kind of the facilities that can support uranium mine. But that's the idea. That's the idea.
Jan, do you want to weigh in here, perhaps?
I have one thing that comes up to my mind now, practical thing. When I was working in Kazakhstan, we were supporting education, starting from the basic elementary school education in the area. Yes, so we improved the schools there, and we provided scholarships for students to study at universities abroad. Yes, so I think this is not a direct like a profit making or something for Namibia, but in the future, if we have more engineers, more educated people, you will benefit from
So
it.
the same sort of incentives can be done here.
Yes.
All right.
Well, if you agree to that.
Of course.
No. Education is and people is a key.
Yeah. And go
For
ahead.
us. No.
All right. And then lastly, gentlemen, I see we're running out of time. So just before we end off, I'll end off with you, Alex. Just in terms of revenue, what are we looking at in terms of your annual production targets for the, let's say, the first 5 years or so?
Depends on how resources we will discover. If now we'll have about 23,000 of indicated resources and some about 30,000 inferred, and we can take that uranium production will be at least 1,000 tons a year. But we are looking for potential for 3,000 tons a year. It's a big uranium mine. It will be, could be one of the top 10 uranium mines, comparable to that you have in Namibia right now, such as Husap and similar to Husap. That's why, but we would like not to discuss now some solid, because it's again a subject of the feasibility study, which will be done. We have first of all understand the economics.
Yeah.
But the economics will come from the results of the pilot test which we want to start.
And the results of that pilot test will now, include things like what Jan said, looking at how perhaps you can, provide incentives to the Namibian community, also in terms of jobs and all of that.
No. It's not a subject for a pilot test. For a pilot test, we should understand recovery,
Right.
Reactant consumptions, which are base items for the economics, and other issues that you mentioned, such social, some it's another part of the feasibility study. Feasibility study is a comprehensive study of all kind of activities related to in situ leach mining.
But perhaps just I guess before we leave, just speak to us on what that idea might look like, just in terms of job creation and all of that.
That's we mentioned already. Job creation, absolutely. We are focused on the local community, which will work at our mine. We are not planning to bring some Russians or I don't know from the other countries. Workers will be 100% local, and constructors.
Alex, Jan, thank you so much for making time for us this morning, gentlemen.
Thank you too,
Thank
John.
you, John.